Apparently, through the use of LiDAR, they have discovered that there are enormous structures underneath the Great Pyramid that go kilometers.
Recent breakthroughs using cutting-edge radar technology have revealed massive structures hidden beneath the pyramids of Egypt. These bizarre formations seem uniform and deliberate, sparking wild speculation about their purpose. Are they natural, or do they point to an ancient knowledge we've yet to uncover? Shifting perceptions of the Giza pyramids. For a very long time, the pyramids at Giza fit neatly into a single grand story. They were intricate tombs created to safeguard the remains of ancient Egyptian pharaohs. This belief came from physical evidence in many known pyramid complexes that contained mummies, funerary items, and inscriptions honoring royalty. In countless history classes, documentaries, and museum notes, the Great Pyramid of Giza was described as the final resting place of Pharaoh Khufu and the ultimate example of Old Kingdom funerary architecture. Yet, with ever-expanding research, new scans, and surprising finds, that story has become increasingly complex. Some experts argue that the Great Pyramid is not solely, or perhaps not at all, a burial site. A major factor in this changing conversation is the puzzling lack of typical royal tomb markers inside the Great Pyramid itself.
I'm chatting with a live H&R Block tax expert. It makes doing our taxes online so easy. There's also this AI.
There is a plain, box-like granite container in puzzling lack of typical royal tomb markers inside the Great Pyramid itself. There is a plain, box-like granite container in what is often called the King's Chamber, but no official inscriptions identify it as Khufu's sarcophagus. No trace of a mummy or funerary goods has been confirmed. Older explanations said robbers stole these items in antiquity, leaving the interior stripped bare. But many scholars today are unsure if that entire scenario suffices as an explanation for why such a massive monument is so conceptually different from other Egyptian tombs. Some also question why many other pyramids and mastabas, known to be tombs, contain extensive inscriptions while the Great Pyramid is comparatively stark. At the same time, new radar and imaging technology has peered deep inside and underneath the Giza Plateau, unveiling what could be sections of unexpected chambers, voids, vertical shafts, and elaborate subterranean features. Some published accounts claim that radar Doppler tomography has detected cylindrical structures structures going down hundreds of meters below the base of the pyramid, with networks spreading as far as 2 kilometers underground. Although it remains uncertain how much of that data has been fully confirmed by on-site excavation, these claims alone have revitalized public and scholarly interest. Hearing that the plateau could host networks of tunnels or chambers so far below ground dramatically alters how researchers think about the entire site. For decades, official tours and textbooks only hinted at a few known features: the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and an unfinished chamber below ground level. Yet, if there are indeed major subterranean corridors or large spiral wells extending far into the bedrock, then it raises an unsettling possibility that the Great Pyramid's full range of purpose, design, or age has not yet been documented in mainstream studies. On top of this, some people have pointed out that specialized materials, particularly the combination of limestone and granite, could point to a function other than an ordinary tomb. Electric conductivity, acoustical resonance, and alignment with cardinal direction, major subterranean corridors or large spiral wells extending far into the bedrock, then it raises an unsettling possibility that the Great Pyramid's full range of purpose, design, or age has not yet been documented in mainstream studies. On top of this, some people have pointed out that specialized materials, particularly the combination of limestone and granite, could point to a function other than an ordinary tomb. Electric conductivity, acoustical resonance, and alignment with cardinal directions all factor into a new set of hypotheses. While many of these hypotheses have not entered standard archaeology textbooks, their very existence signals that popular views about the pyramids are shifting away from a single explanation. Increasingly, it seems that identifying these monuments as mere tombs underestimates their complexity and might reduce centuries.
If you're a web designer, here are 4 Wix Studio features you gotta know.
Of advanced engineering to a straightforward funeral story. Why the tomb-only explanation has been challenged. Since the early days of archaeology in Egypt, the tomb theory made sense. Many pyramids from various eras did indeed contain remains or funerary goods. Drawings on walls in other pyramid complexes depicted the deceased pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. Or funerary goods. Drawings on walls in other pyramid complexes depicted the deceased pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. There is also abundant evidence that during the Old Kingdom, the construction of large, state-sponsored monuments was an expression of centralized power and religious devotion to the king. So, for generations, historians classified every pyramid they saw as a tomb. Even the Great Pyramid, with little direct evidence of a formal burial, was placed into that same category by proximity and by size. Over time, however, cracks emerged in the consensus. The interior of the Great Pyramid does not feature the lavish murals and hieroglyphic prayers found in later royal tombs, let alone the extensive inscriptions typical of most pharaonic burial sites. The King's Chamber, which is the largest official interior room, is astonishingly austere. The only object there is the limestone or granite container, whose precise function remains debated. People asked why a pharaoh who had near unlimited labor and resources would leave his final resting place devoid of inscriptions, statues, or markers that honor his rule, especially when smaller tombs from the same civilization were flamboyantly decorated. Though there might be an explanation, The difference is puzzling. Another issue is the pyramid's engineering symmetry and alignment. The Great Pyramid is aligned to true north with remarkable accuracy, more so than many modern buildings. The huge limestone blocks and sections of granite are fitted with near-perfect precision. In cross-section, the internal corridors seem to reflect advanced knowledge of angles and geometry. The entire building, if viewed in a historical vacuum, apart from other Egyptian pyramids, looks like a standalone mega-project that transcends the typical blueprint for a royal tomb. Some assert that the complexity might have had a deeper purpose, maybe storing knowledge or harnessing natural energy. This remains hypothetical, but the speculation arises precisely because of these anomalies. Traditional tomb logic did not predict such features. Today, a fair number of Egyptologists still maintain that the Great Pyramid's original function was purely funerary. In their view, the emptiness came from ancient robbers who stripped valuables, or from the possibility that Khufu never finished using it. Skeptics of that explanation point out that large tomb complexes at Saqqara or even the Valley of the Kings also faced looting, yet remain covered in references to the dead. Another line of doubt emerges from claims of scanning that have turned up hidden voids or large connected structures well beneath the pyramid. If advanced imaging continues to confirm vast subterranean expansions,
Want to know how I took my business to the next level? It's simple. It's Shopify. Whether I'm building
the question grows sharper. Was this truly just the pharaoh's tomb, or something else entirely? Technology and modern re-examination have forced more people to be open to new possibilities. Some wonder if the standard narrative tried to fit a round peg into a square hole because it was the simplest available answer at the time. Many tombs exist, so it was easy to label the Great Pyramid as one more. But careful inspection reveals design features not found in run-of-the-mill burial complexes. That is the core of the debate. Can a single, traditional explanation cover all these structural oddities, or is it time for an expanded viewpoint? Skeletons discovered at tombos and burial hierarchies. With fresh conversations regarding who was buried in pyramids, the site of tombos in modern-day Sudan unveils a different angle. Tombos features small mud brick pyramids that once served as important local burial sites during Egyptian rule over Nubia. Excavations there exposed multiple skeletons belonging to individuals who led physically demanding lives. This in itself was unexpected because many archaeologists believed that in every pyramid context, only high-status or royal individuals found their final rest. At Tombos, the project scientists confirmed that some skeletal remains showed pronounced signs of heavy labor, wear, and strain, suggesting these people were not nobility or scribes living in comfort. This discovery stimulates big-picture changes in how we think about pyramid burial customs. If in certain periods and places, ordinary or lower-status individuals were also interred in pyramid-style tombs, that implies the lines between a royal pyramid tomb and a broader community tomb might be blurrier than we assumed. Tombos might reflect a strategy where minor officials or even staff could share in a more prestigious burial method. Proximity to the official occupant, presumably someone of higher standing, might mean continuing to serve in an afterlife capacity, or it might show that local customs diverged from what we see in core Egyptian sites. What does this mean for the pyramids at Giza? While the scale of Giza is far greater than that of Tombos, the underlying concept is that we should not oversimplify who might be buried in a pyramid. If a smaller site in Sudan had laborers in a pyramid tomb, it opens the possibility that burial patterns can stray far from the neat model of only a single exalted occupant. This point does not automatically explain the Great Pyramid, but it does hint that we should keep an open mind. The assumption that the Great Pyramid must only hold Pharaoh Khufu's remains starts to look less solid if other pyramid contexts show varied burial practices. Even the typical notion that all higher tomb structures must be for the absolute elite diminishes under scrutiny. At Tombos, the largest pyramid belonged to a pharaoh named Siamun of the 21st dynasty, but more modest pyramid tombs also existed around that area. Some had deeper shafts, while others appear to have smaller structures or collapsed sub-chambers that show multiple burials across time. The pressing mystery is that there could be multiple reasons for a pyramid shape or style, and that these might not match the standard royal tomb narrative so strictly. Although Giza's scale is radically different, Tombos proves that new evidence can force us to reinterpret some fundamental assumptions about status, burials, and the pyramid form.
Get real-world experience for the world of music and audio at Full Sail University. Recording, producing.
Specifically, the presence of low-status skeletons in a pyramid tomb reveals that local or chronological contexts can result in unusual combinations of architecture and cultural beliefs. The difference between a small mud brick pyramid in Tombos and the massive stone colossus at Giza is vast, but archaeology often finds that big leaps in logic are necessary once fresh data appears. At Giza, the ongoing conversation about who or what might dwell inside those subterranean expansions is tied to the bigger question: are we dealing with single-purpose tombs, or did pyramids sometimes fulfill broader roles in the ancient world? Ground-penetrating technology. Scanning methods have taken center stage in the debate. Traditional digging has limitations in a site as historically significant and politically sensitive as Giza. Archaeologists worry about harming the structure, so large-scale, invasive attempts to drill or hammer into the pyramid can be met with strict opposition by local authorities. Instead, advanced remote sensing offers a less intrusive path. Multiple forms of radar, satellite imaging, muon detection, and even thermal scanning have joined the archaeological forms of radar, satellite imaging, muon detection, and even thermal scanning have joined the archaeologists' toolkit. Muon detection was used to locate a mysterious void inside the Great Pyramid several years ago. Cosmic ray muons travel through matter, and if an area is empty of dense stone, more muons will pass there, creating anomalies in the data. Muography led some teams to proclaim they had found a previously unknown internal cavity. Debate ensued over whether that cavity was a leftover construction gap or a concealed chamber that might hold something significant. Skeptics wanted more direct confirmation. Permits to dig or break into that void were never issued. Consequently, the discussion fizzled until more robust scanning data might appear. Then came other methods like radar Doppler tomography, which is said to create detailed three-dimensional images of subterranean shapes. There are claims that repeated high-resolution scans of the Giza Plateau have uncovered vertical wells, spiral paths, or large cubic spaces at extraordinary depths, far below what any typical tomb shaft might require. Some accounts suggest these networks connect the three major pyramids, Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure, with each other and extend well outside their bases. Going 600 meters deep or even beyond would be an enormous undertaking for any ancient culture. Proponents of These discoveries argue it points to advanced engineering or a lost civilization. Critics respond that you cannot be sure what is man-made until you physically confirm it. Reflections on the scanning data might also originate from geological faults, cavities, or water channels. How do these scanning results tie into the existing narrative? In part, they highlight how much remains unknown about the Great Pyramid. Many books and documentaries presume the site is fully explored, when it clearly is not. The scanning revelations, if accurate, would indicate an astonishing labyrinth of structures that begs for explanation. The very depth and complexity of these rumored substructures outdoes most recognized Old Kingdom practices. Indeed, if the original pharaoh's plan was to build a tomb, why burrow hundreds of meters, possibly your entire monument, into the earth? Some scanning results also highlight unusual interior geometry. One press release or summary might note an advanced sloping roof design, a set of horizontal levels or unique patterns matching no known Old Kingdom blueprint. While pyramids evolved over centuries, from step pyramids to smooth-sided ones, mainstream scholarship never suggested anything near the scale or depth described by these modern scans. That is why so many consider these scanning-based claims to be narrative-shattering, or at least worthy of intense investigation. If validated, they could change how we teach Egyptian history. Debates around subterranean design. Reports about large corridors or vertical cylindrical formations beneath the Giza pyramids have grabbed the headlines. Many of these rumors link to press conferences, newly
Well, what do we have here?
It's your last chance to get Disney Plus and Hulu for just $2.99 a month.
No way. Yes.
announced datasets or short videos from researchers who say they have used synthetic aperture radar from private satellite companies. One claim states that 8 vertical wells, some hundreds of meters deep, sit beneath the Great Pyramid's base in 2 rows. That same claim describes massive cubic formations at the bottom, each 80 meters in diameter, possibly connected by spiral walkways. Such an elaborate design goes well beyond typical burial logic. Even major New Kingdom tombs in the Valley of the Kings rarely exceed 100 meters of descending corridor. The notion of wells plunging 600 meters, plus expansions that keep going down to 2 kilometers, challenges the engineering capacity commonly attributed to the ancient dynasties. Traditional Egyptian building projects were remarkable, but the official story seldom grants them the capacity to carve elaborate systems that deep. If that many corridors or wells exist, it points to overlooked or lost technology, or an older origin that precedes the recognized dynasties. Multiple theories have sprung from these subterranean rumors. Some are fairly mundane. Perhaps the ancient builders simply found large natural caverns and used them for storage or spiritual rites, then sealed certain parts. Others propose that an advanced civilization from a pre-flood era created a labyrinth. Still others mention the halls of Amenti from esoteric texts and claim these spiral wells confirm ancient references describing hidden libraries or hall of records under the pyramid. Many references swirl around mystical writings like the Emerald Tablets or the idea of Atlantean survivors bringing advanced knowledge to the region. Official archaeology typically rejects these interpretations for lack of verifiable proof, but the discoveries remain so extraordinary that even skeptics find themselves struggling to provide simpler explanations. Energy theories, Nikola Tesla, and the Great Pyramid. Beyond the question of subterranean expansions, there is another major theme: the possibility that the Giza pyramids functioned as power centers or even wireless energy plants. Numerous references cite the work of Nikola Tesla, who famously tried to create a system of wireless global electricity transmission in the early 1900s. Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower was meant to exploit Earth's resonance to broadcast energy to distant receivers. He believed that a combination of conduction through the ground and resonance in the atmosphere could allow for near-limitless electricity. Some interpret the Great Pyramid's shape, alignment, and material composition as a sign that the Egyptians, or an older civilization, did something similar. They note that the outer limestone might have acted as an insulator, while interior granite, featuring quartz crystals, could facilitate piezoelectric effects when under stress or vibration. Others argue that the pyramid's position over potential aquifers or water channels might produce natural energy. They highlight that the shape is oriented with precision to cardinal directions, which might help harness Earth's electromagnetic field. These lines of argument also say that the so-called air shafts in the king's and queen's chambers align with frequencies that resonate at certain musical pitches. Although mainstream Egyptologists dismiss the power plant idea as fringe, the notion has nonetheless captured widespread popular interest. Video creators online show how large granite blocks can produce ringing sounds or how certain frequencies might pass through the pyramid's corridor. They connect this to theories that the structure was originally a giant conductor, with the final gold-plated capstone acting as a transmitter. Some even link the rumored presence of copper wiring found in the pyramid, then mysteriously removed, to a plan to
Alright, time to do my own taxes, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
New to doing your own taxes.
carry electricity. Critics highlight that these leaps rely on speculation. They also point out that the frequencies cited, like 432 Hz or 440 Hz, can be inaccurate when transposed onto the pyramid's actual measurements. Tesla's known ambitions for wireless power have fueled the fascination. Proponents say that if Tesla almost figured it out, perhaps the ancients already achieved it. Some go further and claim that obelisks around Egypt, or even those transported to Rome, Paris, and New York, were receiving towers for this energy grid. The idea is that granite plus certain metals at the tip could convert or store energy coming from Giza. A handful of references mention it all fell apart after a catastrophic event that blew out or destroyed the original power station. They point to damage in the king's chamber or cracks in the granite beams as possible evidence of an ancient explosion or meltdown. The real puzzle is that no direct generator or leftover device has been found inside the Great Pyramid that clearly fits an electrical system. Meanwhile, the concept of an advanced ancient power plant remains highly speculative, yet the story is irresistible because it supposedly solves the question of why someone would build such an intricate monument if not to bury a king. It further explains the pyramid's geometry, mysterious internal features, and the uncertain date or origin. With new scanning technology, supporters of the energy theory hope to uncover hidden machinery or structural designs that confirm their stance. Materials and resonant properties. One recurring detail is the material choice. Some pyramid sections contain Aswan granite, a rock that has quartz crystals capable of piezoelectric properties under compression. Others note the dolomite lines parts of the structure, a type of rock that could increase electrical conductivity. Granite is also extremely dense and not easy to quarry or move. The fact that massive blocks of it were transported hundreds of kilometers from Aswan to Giza with such precision sparks curiosity. Why go to that trouble for a simple tomb chamber when local limestone was abundant and easier to cut? Many alternative researchers link the granite beams in the king's chamber to a resonant function. Audio tests performed by independent engineers show that the chamber can produce a distinct ringing tone if structures are struck or if the air vibrates at specific frequencies. Some also mention that the chamber might be a Helmholtz resonator, meaning it is shaped such that incoming vibrations or pulses are focused and amplified. If so, that would be an advanced acoustic trick not typically seen in funeral monuments. The debate is whether these resonant properties were intended. Mainstream scholars might say that any acoustic effect is accidental.
This is Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises, built to meet any brief. When your project calls for bold creativity, design freely on Figma and seamlessly move to Studio, where your vision takes shape. Fine-tune every detail, add motion, craft custom interactions, and let AI handle responsiveness. When the brief calls for complex structure,
or that it was a byproduct of using sturdy granite for structural stability. In certain documentaries and channels, you will see the idea that the ancient builders specifically tuned each granite beam by chipping away material from the top side until it vibrated at the desired pitch. At present, direct proof of tuning is lacking, but the idea keeps fast hold in the popular imagination. It is also one piece of the bigger puzzle. Unusual designs, plus carefully selected materials, plus lacking funeral content, suggests there might have been a bigger plan than burying a single ruler. Others connect this to the pyramid's supposed energy focus. They claim that vibrations from underground water, Earth's natural frequencies, or even cosmic influences set the interior granite to resonate. If that resonance can be captured or harnessed, it theoretically might yield free energy. Scientists on the more conventional side argue that the ability of a large stone structure to hold a stable resonance does not necessarily produce large-scale electrical current or enough usable power. They also warn that many of the facts cited in popular videos, like exact frequencies or perfect alignments, might be simplified or inaccurate. Nevertheless, the collision of material science and pyramid design remains a major talking point among those who see the pyramid as something more than a tomb. Subsurface water, earth forces, and architecture. A separate but related line of inquiry focuses on the idea that the Great Pyramid or other pyramids stand over significant water channels. The Giza Plateau's geology hints at subterranean aquifers. By old tradition, local stories sometimes mention tunnels or wells under the Sphinx and the pyramids, though these were rarely explored in earlier excavation. If scanning confirms the presence of large water flows, it might connect to alternative theories about how the Great Pyramid once generated or amplified energy through the movement of water. The argument goes that water cascading beneath the pyramid, or even just a water table with partial motion, might cause vibrations. Combined with the pyramid's shape and materials, those vibrations might be directed or harnessed. Some go further to propose that those vertical shafts or spiral wells rumored in the scanning data are actually massive water conduits, reminiscent of a giant mechanical apparatus. They ask if the atmospheric and ground-based conduction of electricity could have been supplemented by the synergy of water flow and quartz-laden granite. Supporters of these ideas often mention that the baseline knowledge needed to build such a system would be extraordinary. The correct angles, materials, and internal design would require advanced engineering. Where that knowledge came from is the subject of even more speculation. Some suggest it was inherited from an older civilization that preceded the well-known dynasties, possibly a society that existed before a planetary of even more speculation. Some suggest it was inherited from an older civilization that preceded the well-known dynasties, possibly a society that existed before a planetary catastrophe or flood. Others say that supernatural or interdimensional forces guided the process, tying in biblical references or creation stories from the ancient world. That said, not everyone who entertains these water-based theories believes in esoteric influences. Engineering-minded investigators might see it as evidence that the people of the time had more sophisticated geological and architectural knowledge than we typically credit them for. These lines of thinking highlight that mainstream academic coverage of ancient building techniques can often boil down to simplistic statements about ramps or labor forces. The complexity implied by deep subterranean structures and integrated water systems demands an explanation that goes beyond a simple "they built a tomb for the pharaoh." If real, such feats reveal a massive and purposeful project that served specialized functions we still do not fully grasp. Mystery texts and esoteric narratives. Amid the swirl of new findings, references to texts like the Emerald Tablets, the Halls of Amenti, or writings attributed to a legendary figure named Thoth the Atlantean pop up frequently. These narratives are not part of standard Egyptology. They belong to esoteric or channeled lore. claiming that an advanced pre-dynastic or Atlantean culture built the Giza complex with the knowledge far beyond that of historical pharaoh. Proponents imagine that deep below the plateau is an archive known as the Hall of Records, storing advanced technology or wisdom from a lost era. Though mainstream researchers view such claims skeptically, the question of a possible pre-flood or older layer of civilization keeps returning. Some biblical interpretations suggest the world was drastically reshaped by the Great Flood, leaving scattered traces of earlier society. Stories from Mesopotamia, the Maya, and other cultures likewise recall floods or catastrophic events. By that logic, the Giza pyramids might stand as survivors from a time when knowledge soared, then was mostly lost to history. The seemingly advanced nature of the structure, both above and below ground, reinforces the notion that official accounts of Egyptian building practices do not tell the entire story. Critics challenge the authenticity of these esoteric texts. They note that the so-called Emerald Tablets are not recognized as ancient by mainstream scholars. However, supporters underscore that many old references also talk about hidden chambers under Giza or mention a mystical purpose. In the absence of direct excavation, it remains an open question. Some watchers suspect that if archaeologists do manage to access these deep spaces, they will find surprising evidence that aligns with legendary narratives, or at least broadens the timeline of civilization in that region. The connection to Christianity also arises. Some believers interpret new discoveries in the pyramids as indirectly supporting biblical accounts of advanced civilizations or giants existing before the flood. Others see it as consistent with the notion that spiritual beings might have influenced humanity. UFO advocates prefer an extraterrestrial angle, while others propose interdimensional visitors. All these angles swirl around the central fact that something major might be hidden underground, and that the Great Pyramid's architecture defies simple classification. In effect, the discussion crosses lines